welcome. I'm your host tonight. My name is Stéphanie Briand, and I'm delighted to be here with you to celebrate the launch of this book. This is the right side, it's way better. So this is Geraldine Michel and Ren Willing's new book, The Art of Successful Brand Collaboration. The book itself is a collaboration between two people, then Geraldine Michel. So you are a serial author. I think it's your fourth book, right?
Yes.
Before that, you wrote Au cœur de la marque, quand les artistes s'emparent des marques et management transversal dans la marque aux éditions Duno. This is your first book in English. Your co-author, Ren Willing, is with us also tonight. Welcome, Ren. You are the CEO of the International Partnership Agency 19 Mars. You are also speaker at the Sorbonne University and co-writer of this book, The Art of Successful Brand Collaboration. And Geraldine, to know more about you too, you are a professor of marketing and the director of the chair Brand and Values at the Sorbonne University, so real experts. This is about collaboration, and you went to this event with a real team spirit. You decided to invite some bright minds and share ideas around a topic, which is partnership for good, the future of brand collaboration, with a question mark. So this is a question we're going to try to answer tonight, and I'd like to introduce you our guests. So first, we're with Manish Arora. Good evening, Manish.
Good evening, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being with us. So you are a very well-known Indian fashion designer, and you were one of the first Indian designers to make a big hit on the Parisian scene. You were also in charge of the creation at the house Paco Rabanne for years. Yes. Your brand is well known all over the world, and you are a very inspired artist. So you had a lot of collaboration with different brands, and we're going to talk about that. With us also Florence Puech. Good evening, Florence.
Good evening.
You are corporate communication director at Maison Remy-Martin. And for the one who don't know what is Remy-Martin, it's a legendary brand of cognac, super well known all over the world. I'm happy also to welcome Julien Ancele.
Hello.
So Julien, you are the CEO of the NGO Fontaines. Your mission is more than useful because you make sure people all over the globe can get access to drinkable water. And also you are a key actor in the world of social entrepreneurship. So I'm gonna explain you how it's gonna work for the next 45 minutes. We are going to cover different topics. And at the end of it, you will be able in the audience to ask your questions. So everything that you put on the chat, we can see it. And we will pick a few questions at the end for probably 15 minutes. And the three first people who are going to ask brilliant questions are going to be able to get one book. So this is kind of a deal. So we're going to start now. Of course, we want to know how did this start, the idea and the story behind the book. So please, Geraldine Michel and Ren Willing, can you explain to us why this book?
So I was very nicely invited, I think 3 years back in 2017 to participate in a conference at the Sorbonne University by Geraldine. And after the conference was done, we talked together, and I knew she already wrote 3 books in French. And I said, Geraldine, what about a book in English about partnerships? And she said, well, I was going to ask you the same thing. So that's how our collaboration started, which was a very good collaboration because we made this book where I did more the practical side and she did more the theoretical side on marketing and partnerships. So maybe Geraldine, I let you the word so you can explain a bit more about the book itself, how we imagined this book.
Yes. So that's right, that this book is a good example of the successful collaboration. And we started working together 2 years ago. And it was a great adventure because Ren and I are very complementary, and we share the same goal, giving up-to-date knowledge and methods for helping managers for their brand collaborations. And so finally, this book is the mix of the academic and managerial spirits. And we are very happy of the result. And also thanks to all the companies that give us illustrations for our book, also for the cover, thanks to Server Company. And that's right, that it's a book very helpful to realize that the brand collaborations are not only co-branding and new product, but we have different partners, different forms. So it was a great adventure.
Yeah, so it's a book which is enlarged, in which you can see like partnerships, which goes from artists like with Manish, fashion designers, to good causes like 1001 Fountains or WWF. It goes to museums, doing partnerships in science, which we also do with Remy-Martin. So there are many different large areas of partnership we cover, but also the way when you do a partnership, what different type of partnerships you can do. For instance, you can do partnership for promotions, for your image, you can do to get more new consumers. So there are different types of how you elaborate once you decided to tie in with somebody, what you can do with it. So all these different things in depth and in large we cover, and also very practically with different interviews.
So it's the concept is really going through analysis and also very concrete examples. So it's a real guide, actually. It's not only like theory.
Yes. And at the end, you have a very handy toolkit how to do a partnership yourself. So you don't need me or you need Geraldine. You just can do it all by your own. So that's great. Good
empowerment.
Yeah.
So you probably know the saying, alone we go faster, together we go further. And it's also a law of nature, right? Life and survival are not about competition. It's all about cooperation. So I'm curious to know, for each of you, how do you explain this craze? Why is this so important now in the world we live in? So maybe first we're going to start with you, Florence Puech. So you've done many brand collaboration. Can you explain to us how you explain such a huge movement around this?
Wow, I'm not sure I can explain. What I can say is that there are very different types of collaborations, as Ren just said. Actually, I might go for examples. Maybe that's the easiest. I picked two examples. One is a collaboration with an artist, actually very linked to a product, devoted to develop some meaning, yeah, but still devoted to a product. And another one is more like a philanthropic partnership that we did with the Castle of Versailles. So if I start with the first example, it's the collab we made with an American artist, Matt W. Moore. He's a graphic designer. He's particularly famous for a digital abstract style, which is called Vector Funk. You can actually check on his Instagram account. It's a very expressive visual language that he uses with a lot of colors. We came to Matt in order to create a limited edition of VSOP. VSOP in our cognac world is the starting quality, yeah. And obviously, we wanted to talk to a younger generation to raise the interest on the brand, showing a different aspect of the brand, which Remy-Martin is almost 3 centuries old. So it's a brand with a lot of history, a lot of savoir-faire, a lot of transmission. And there, with Matt, we wanted to be more vibrant on a more arty, more young, more collaborative side of the brand. So we created a bottle with him with a fantastic element of art. And we also developed an augmented reality application. It was the very beginning of augmented reality kit within the iPhones. And we went for something very innovative, enabling all of our clients to create a kind of a Matmo world around them. So using very fun, joyful shapes. And so we made tours with Matmo all around the world. And we gave the ability to influencers first, and then anybody downloading the application to create a really fun creative content that was then posted on social networks all around the planet. So this was user-generated content, which, as everyone knows, is something very interesting for brands, provided it's qualitative. With such a fun, great artist, we inspired, I think, the young generation, and actually we sold all the bottles. We even had to go for a second round of production. We had a huge media cover, and it generated some very positive vibes on the brand and on the values of Remy-Martin. That's an example, but I suppose I can develop another one later.
Thank you for sharing that. So the artist in the room is Manish here. So Manish, can you share with us your experience as an artist? What does this kind of collaboration bring to you and also to your brand?
But I'm on the other side of the fence, like you mentioned. I'm more the artist than the brand collaborating with. I would like to give an example of a project that I did some years ago, which was with Ren. Ren also represents me for many collaborations in the past and maybe more in the future. We did work on a project with this brand called Nivea, the cream Nivea. And it's a great example because that was the time when I was making my own brand name. I was trying to build a brand globally. And sometimes as an individual artist who owns 100% of his own company and doesn't have big fundings, collaboration can be a very good key to access all as much possible people all over the world. So it could be, so when Nivea kind of was interested in me, they were doing 500,000 boxes with my print on it and my name. And that for me was a very exciting moment for my brand name to reach in people's home. The interesting part was that how we did that collaboration and how we made it into multi-dimensional. We started by, of course, designing the packaging. When I do a collaboration, I always like to visit the place where it's done. It could be most of the collaborations, be Swarovski, Nespresso, many more. I like to see how the product is made. So we first went near Hamburg and we saw how the cream itself was created and how the boxes were made. It was a factory full of robots making Nivea cream. It was an eye-opener. Then we said how to make this more human, how to make this more connected and a personal touch amongst these 500,000 people who will buy this box. We started with not just matching it with my current collection of that time, which that time was based on a circus theme. And we even, when I do collaborations, we go further than just the product. We also believe in packaging. We made an example of a circus tent, and you could buy 3 different boxes placed in a tent. It was quite beautiful and quirky. Then we said, how else? What more can we do? Then different markets took different ideas. I remember in Italy, if I am right, it was Italy, where we had a lucky draw. Some people will buy the cream and they will get a ticket to come to Paris for my show. So it was, when you do a collaboration, it's kind of a marriage for that period for 2 brands, you know, an artist and the brand. And it is the sync, how much you are in sync. That's very important when you collaborate. And that's the only time you can go really far. You can go far And it shows in a good collaboration that it's a right match make. It's very important for one has to realize the identity of the brand and the artist, and it's usually an agent's job, and they put them together, and the result in most of my collaboration has been quite successful. This particular one it helped me to build a brand, like I mentioned before, and it kind of made me a household name, which otherwise on my own I would have not been able to achieve myself.
So you are talking about two things, that the power of the reach, and it was the same with Remy-Martin. Actually, you were able to reach some people that you were not able to reach otherwise. And also when you are talking about this marriage, I'm curious to know that, because, okay, marriage is having two different people working together. So the collaboration for you as an artist is not merging. It's not like sharing your DNA, like not marriage, but having a child together, not creating something like this is the same DNA. No, you feel like it's two identities that they're working together.
Yeah, a good example of that is Swarovski. I've been working with Swarovski now for more than 10 years. It's when you're right. Okay, I have my identity, they have their identity, but together we have created many children, many children, many collaborations. So it's kind of a marriage. Throughout the years, I've worked with different departments of Swarovski. I could proudly say I'm one of the few Indian artists / designers globally who's managed to do that number of collaborations with one brand, and that is Swarovski. So it's also about getting along. It's also about knowing each other over the years, understanding each other's value of the brand, and how you can add to it from your own, or how they can give you. It's a mutual consent, you know.
Thank you, Manish. So Julien Ancele, for your NGO, what does those collaboration represent?
Well, for us, it's actually strategic, because you know, we're an NGO. We address almost 1 million people like this child here every year. So we need to raise about 30% more funds each year to fuel our growth and match our beneficiary targets. So obviously, corporate partners are very important for us in terms, first of all, of funding, because the funding of corporate partners with whom we associate represents about 30% of our annual turnover, but also in terms of visibility, because we don't have, obviously, the communication levers to spread out. We don't have the resources to spread out the visibility of our model, and therefore associating with brands who have an impact, who have consumers, who provide visibility to our targets, is going to have an indirect impact. So we've developed several collaboration. We'll give some example later on, but we basically associate with brands with whom we share the same values, and with, you know, that corresponds to what we do, which is basically providing clean, affordable water for the poor. So brand in the areas of retail, FMCGs, luxury. We have also collaboration with an umbrella brand, which obviously makes sense with what we do. So there is, I would say, a mutual interest for them to, I would say, associate with a project that has a social impact, that has a purpose, because what we see more and more is that all brands, all companies are being challenged to have an impact and to have a purpose. And this is a massive trend, and it's not, you know, cosmetic at all. So, and this pressure comes not only from the consumers, but from all stakeholders, the employees, the shareholders, etc. So they need to find the right projects to associate themselves with, and yes, to sort of contribute and own, basically co-own the social impact that our NGO has.
Thank you, Julien. So Florence Puech, this is true. You, on the brand side, that you need to have a why, you need to have social impact now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's there's no question about it anymore. As far as we are concerned with Remy-Martin, we've been for a long time involved in terms of protecting the land, protecting the environment in our appellation in Cognac. We started, so CSR is about environment, is about people, is about many things, but I'm just going to pick environment here. we became committed to reasoned wine growing a long time ago. So it's viticulture raisonnée. And what we tend to do really with a lot of energy is to bring all the wine growers of the appellation on that track to get all certified, high environmental value, etc. This is something that's not so easy to do. It costs money for wine growers. It takes time. And so we made a lot of communication around that. We created awards to support the wine growers, etc. And at some point, we thought how to make it bigger, how to accelerate, because it's really the long term of our terroirs that are at stake. And so we thought we should be less technical, maybe talk to more people, and we had that opportunity to get closer to the Versailles Castle, and we decided to support the admirable trees of the Versailles Castle. It was last year. Admirable trees are a selection of 30 beautiful trees within the Versailles estates. Beautiful for their history, for their beauty, aesthetical beauty, and these trees need support. So we went for a good cause because the cause is beautiful. Trees talk to us. So we are also very involved in protecting the oaks that are so precious for the aging of our eau de vie. So this is twice for good, for the good of the castle and for the good of our cause, giving echo, amplifying the fact that we think it's absolutely crucial to change our ways of do wine growing and respect the earth as much as possible.
So now it's a topic you are well known. I mean, is that in people's mind, this area of taking care of nature is part of who you are? Or yeah. Are you working on this more and more because you want to have people really see you, but differently, not only as a brand, but also as a company who has a real impact on the world? This is what you are putting your effort more and more?
Absolutely. We're putting the efforts on communicating to get things changed. Communicating is a media. What we really want is change the ways of doing. And yes, I think we're getting heard. I think it's very important. And this is only the beginning. Yeah.
Thank you. Julien, can we come back to you? So can you tell us about the kind of partnership you can have, and most of the time what really the brand wants, and why do they want to have this social impact, and the experiences that you have around this?
So yeah, I mean, historically, the brands that were coming to us were interested in the fact that we're, improving the health of poor people. So we have an impact on absenteeism at school and health of the population. So there was, I would say, a natural tendency for brands who are active in the field of water, like Danone, for example, to work with her. And what's interesting is that now we see that there is a big concern on climate change. It's getting of increased importance, the environment. I mean, we have observed that for the last year. So we are now being questioned, challenged, and gaining traction from other types of companies who want to push this aspect, because our model is I would say, environmentally friendly. So the fact that we have I would say, different kind of impact, and that now all companies are structuring their strategy towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know if you heard about that, but it's basically the 17 targets to save the planet by 2030. So all companies now are aligning to that. So some companies will work with us to, I would say, to push and promote the impact on health. It can be women inclusion, environment, etc. So we've developed sort of a comprehensive toolkit suite of promotional activities and I would say communication and brand collaboration that have to fit with what the brand wants. It's very important to align really on the strategy. And I would say in terms of how it materializes, what we do mostly is what we call in French a product sharing. Is basically brands will propose a certain category of product, so it can be an umbrella, it can be as I said bottle of water, and for each product sold there is a percentage that's given back to 1001 Fontaines. Okay, so we've developed that concept, and the most, I would say, successful one is actually a tripartite collaboration with Danone on one side, so water brands like Evian, Volvic, and Intermarché, which is one of the biggest French retailers. And we know how the relationship between distributors and FMCGs can be tough sometimes, but over the last 10 years it's been like a honeymoon when it came to having this partnership with 1001 Fontaines. So for each for a period of 2 weeks, for each bottle of water sold, €2 is given back, and it's a fantastic operation, because we've raised almost €1 million for the last 10 years. So it's 500,000 children who benefited to save water. And actually, what's interesting when you look at it from a business perspective is that it's not only I would say an operation that has an impact, but it also has an economic impact, because the sales generally increase. So there is a strong customer adoption to those operations, and it's definitely a win-win, because everybody's I would say winning out of it. So I think to answer your question, the best and most valuable partnership is really when you can have like all the plots ticking, and all the, I would say, needs of each partner's staggering. So you have to take a lot of time with each partner to define, what's the strategy and how that can contribute not only to your image, but to your business CSR targets.
Thank you, Julien. Ren, what Julien is saying also, that we're not only about raising awareness, and this is what Florence was saying too. Now it's even more about taking action. So do you see something around that?
Yes, indeed. There's a very strong tendency. So from, being brands from a long time already involved with everything which is the environment for Save the Planet. And we see now very strong tendencies also in the US with brand activism, where brands also dare to say, take up a stand for racism, when, for instance, with Nike and Colin Kaepernick against racism. You see a lot of cosmetic brands also tying in with the Me Too movement. You see, for instance, also, which even goes further than partnerships in these fields, but for instance, on Patagonia, which is an outdoor brand, a US outdoor brand, which started in the 70s, who is now also has as a purpose of its own company not to sell more clothes, but the purpose is now to save the planet. Which is, for a company which sells clothes from the beginning, it's a really radical shift. And also, for instance, Danone, which has as a mission, is a mission company now. It's not only about selling its products, but also, giving good nutriments to the people worldwide. So it's really interesting, this shift we see. And of course, partnerships embellish or are the cherry on the cake, or translate these trends in communication, what we see. But of course, there also, which is interesting, and I can see it on the questions we have also in this webinar, is the downside of this good washing, purpose washing. So
we're gonna go to this later.
So this is effectively something we come back on later. I think it's interesting to see what the downside also is from partnerships who do have a purpose, but it's maybe not that thoroughly thought of, or not in the long term.
Thank you, Ren. Manish, are you an activist too through your art and brand? So is that important to you to have a real meaning?
For me, it's very important to revive craftsmanship, especially coming from India. We have such a large number of, in fact, every state has a different kind of textile, different kind of weaving, different kinds of embroidery. the way people dress up is also very different in each state. And I've been working very actively in states like Kashmir, which is the northmost state in India, and Varanasi, both being quite different. Kashmir being known for textiles that they weave. One scarf, it will take them for one person 7 months to weave one scarf just by himself. And whereas Varanasi is known for its intricate brocade fabrics. Now, what happens is that we have to create jobs for them, because otherwise everybody is tempted these days to go to from small towns to cities, because there's such bigger job opportunities in India now, because it's on the rise, the economy. Yet it's very important for us not to forget the ancient crafts. So I always believe in keeping that alive. So we work as a brand actively in both places. I go and meet. Last year, I spent a lot of time in Kashmir, where I visited the weavers myself, understanding what is the problems, what are the things they are facing, problems or ideas. Just to excite them with new ideas, new patterns. It can create. It's not just about not having enough work. Yes, that is an issue. So how to make them more commercially viable? If a guy makes one scarf for 7 months, obviously doesn't make that much money. But how to make that into a larger number of pieces, how to divide one scarf into 100 samples, it creates more job, more people. So this is what we like to focus, and keeping in mind to change the design mentality, because times are different now. People are no longer buying something which was created for 7 months and it costs you thousands of euros. But you can use the same talent, make it modernized, keep the techniques, but make it more relevant for the new generation so they can understand. This is what we work on actively. I worked between the two states for some time now.
Thank you, Manish. And for sure, the consumers are at the end of the chain. So how do you, Florence, know if it's aligned with what they are looking for, if it makes sense for them that you are creating those collaborations?
Well, you thanks to social networks, you know pretty fast if it works or not. This is a very transparent way of knowing things. I must say, as long as you are faithful to what you are, to your values, that you go for partners that share the same spirit, as long as the partnership is relevant, as long as it's consistent, I think there's little chance to be wrong. You need to be true to what you are. You need to be honest. That's the way we've always done at Remy-Martin, and I don't think we really failed so far, because we try to go for the fair partners. Yeah.
Thank you, Florence. Geraldine, can you tell us, because sometimes it doesn't work, so is that because people were not really connected to their essence? Can you give us an example?
Yes, so regarding all the testimonies of our guests, we can realize that the most important thing is the consistency between who you are and what do you do. So it's the brand legitimacy. And today, exactly, people are looking for a meaning. And one of the most important thing is the brand sincerity. So in this context, it's why partnerships with NGOs can appear to be just a strategy for companies to have a clear conscience. So for instance, the collaboration between Louis Vuitton and UNICEF maybe is great, and they might be sincere, and maybe they sold products with these partnerships. but it doesn't make sense for everyone because there is a lack of link between the Louis Vuitton activities and the cause. So sometimes we don't know if this collaboration create meaning for the partners, and also regarding the consumer comments in internet, etc., in the social media, you can see that I mean, sometimes they don't know if it's real sincere, if they take a risk. So it's why I think the greenwashing, so we know the difficulties is to be honest. And I think the key to be honest is to show that you take a risk. When you take a risk, people can see that you are you are sincere and without interest. Yes.
Thank you. So people need to acknowledge that you are doing something with your heart. Ren, you were talking about, you know, the evil side and the danger of it. So what is your point of view on that? Do we have to be cautious as a brand and really make sure that it's from the core of what we really need to do?
I think so. I think Florence just gave a very good example of what she does as a company, which exists like over 300 years. And on the long term, the different partnerships she encouraged. I think for all brands, for instance, on Patagonia, you see the same thing. I already talked about that, but also on Kiehl's, which is a cosmetic brand, which already from over 20 years does a lot to give back to the community with different partnerships, which you also can see on their pots and on the sleeves of the packaging they do. There's also, for instance, on the bad side, you have, for instance, Total, the petrol company, who did recently a partnership with Good to Go, which is a sort of a app on which every food you can buy. And for instance, at the grocery shop, they have some food which they're going to throw away, or at the bakery, you have this app, and people who live nearby can just grab the food for nothing or just pay very less. And for Total, it was something they wanted to do in their in the, how do you say, pompe d'essence there, where you can get the petrol when you drive by your car. But in a way, it was very controversial because Total was saying it decreases the emissions, the petrol emissions, because we're not throwing food away. But in a way, Total wants effectively to sell as much of petrol possible. So in a way, it was very controversially. So yeah, there is always, in a way, I think the most important thing is if you do something on a long term, and it's not just something because it's a trend to do something for Me Too, or it's a trend to do something against racism. So if the company does already things for a long time, then it doesn't need to show off with a short-term partnership. So in a way, you could say everything which is short-term is often seen, and especially right now, as not being real. It's just fake, and the only reason which lies behind it is just to sell more. So again, to increase growth and have the most, to gain as a company the most money as possible.
Thank you, Ren. So we've been talking a lot about the ship, but not so much about people on board. So when you do run a company, is it important to create kind of a glue and to add something to the team, and also your employees, when they are waking up in the morning, they do better know why they are going to work? Florence, do you feel like for your employees, it's something really important?
Oh, it's very important. Actually, we could have started with the internal aspect of these collaborations. I mean, they raise so much pride, so much meaning. I think in a way you get your people get this sense of contributing to something bigger than their everyday job. It's very empowering, and I have lots of examples in my head of emotions raised when I shared this patronage of the admirable trees at Versailles. Well, obviously, we have so many values in common with Versailles. We have the history, 300 years. We have common points precisely around King Louis XV. I mean, it's a long series of elements that make this collaboration extremely sincere, true, and so really it gives a lot of energy to the collaborators within the company, and this is one of the reasons why you should go for collaborations as well. I mean, it really builds energy.
Thank you, Florence. So before we go to Q&A, I'd like each of you to share what you think is the future of brand collaborations, and also if you do have like not a recipe, because there is no recipe, but something you are pretty sure it's key for success in those collaborations. Can you share it? Can we start with you, Manish, please?
Well, I always believe that that life is beautiful. It's the mantra that I've always kept in mind. Sometimes it may not be true, but you have to tell yourself. And I think going further is very important. If you do a collaboration, this message should be passed. And we could, if in the collaboration, we could make a sense of three emotions, which is happiness, joy, and celebration. I think that collaboration will be successful. Keeping in mind what's going on in the world right now, this for me will be a perfect key to a collaboration in coming future.
Thank you, Manish. Julien, what would be your vision?
Well, my vision is that, there is not going to be CSR on one side, business on the other side. It's going to embed. So for me, success means that not only will the collaboration has to align with the brand values, but also with the corporate culture as a strategy. And that's, to me, fundamental, because we have to have, an adhesion of a large number of, stakeholders, not only the consumers, but the employees. Employees are going to be fundamental, because they are probably the ones that are the most eager for change and sense and meaning. So it has to imply all employees, and it's not just they have to be part of it. They have to own the partnership, with their gut, I would say. So for me, I see the future of brand collaboration that way, and I give maybe the example of Danone, which is for us the most illustrative one, because they bring us funding, but they also mobilize skills to help us as an NGO. So we have like pro bono mission. We also communicate together, and we also advocate for the cause of safe drinking water. So everything we do together, and obviously not only branding, but all types of collaboration are embedded into the strategy. So for me, that's really the recipe of the success for a long-lasting relationship and impact in a world where everybody is over-communicating about the positive things they do. As Geraldine said, sincerity is key, and the people see it.
Thank you, Julien. Florence? Well, yeah, I think the future of collaboration is bright. Maybe actually I'm working on a collaboration with someone with whom I don't really know what we're going to be able to do. It's a collaboration on thinking, on brainstorming, on innovating in order to help improve things, to help transform. So maybe that's another kind of collaboration. I don't know. And coming back to the recipe, to me, you should have meaning. You should have relevance to your own culture, your brand culture, and you should have consistency. If you tick all these boxes, I think you are in the right collaboration.
Thank you, Florence. Geraldine?
Yes, so in my opinion, the strong branding in the future will respond to social concerns with the real internal transformation of the organization. So I think the most important thing is the internal transformation. And this organic transformation can't be done alone. So we have to rely on partners and the common work is more powerful than the same action made by only one brand. So I think the brand collaborations have a long life, yes, to be sure that we can transform the companies inside.
Thank you, Géraldine. And Ren?
Yeah, I agree with everything what has been said. Maybe you can also say it in 3 words, which is caring, sharing, and daring. I think we heard a lot about caring partnerships with, for instance, Florence, which cares about the roots. She did partnerships for that, the roots of the company, to show it. Sharing, you know, when you share your word of mouth as a brand with an artist, with Manish, for instance. And also daring, when you as a brand, you're an activist and you want to, you know, shout out against racism, for instance. So I think these things are certainly very strong and coming more and more. But, you know, if there's one word to share, it's definitely sharing. I think it's that's a new world order to come, is to share as much as we can. And for sure, brand partnerships are a key into that.
Thank you, Ren. So now we're going to go to the Q&A. So can you maybe, Géraldine, help me picking a few of them? Yes.
Also, Ren, only, I'm sorry, Stephanie, do you see the question and answers or no?
Yes.
I mean, you see only the chat, but you don't see the...
I do see them. If I just tap on them, there is a Q&A. Can you see it too?
I think maybe there's an interesting question, the last one from Emma, who asks Géraldine Michel, what do you mean by internal transformation thanks to partnerships? Maybe you can explain a bit more. Géraldine, what do you mean by internal transformations due to partnerships?
Yes, it's about the transformation of the companies, about their production process, how they recruit, how they manage, how they, which kind of, I mean, material they use. So it's before asking to people to be responsible. I think first the companies have to be, yes, they have to show the example. And in the diversity when they recruit, so it's the internal transformation. Yes, it's what I mean.
So Carl Jung say, who look inside, awake, who look outside, just dream. So it's more about like reflecting on who we are as a company. This is what you're saying.
Yes, it's why for me the collaboration only to sell some products with an NGO, etc. I mean, it's not internal transformation. The NGO, like also WWF, they help the company to transform themselves, because they have the same goal to protect the planet, etc. So I think the NGO, they have to help the companies to be better. Yes.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
There's also a practical question about, you know, the financial side of partnerships. I think this is something we definitely, you know, explain in the book. Maybe, yeah, I mean, there are all ways of, you know, paying a fee for a partnership. It could be royalties on the sales from a capital collection, for instance, with Manish, when he does it, for instance, with a retail company like Monoprix. Florence also, sometimes you can have win-win partnerships, for instance, when you do something with a good cause, or and there is no fee attached to it. I think Julien also explained partnerships where you get funding for big brands who give you for a year or several years. Maybe, Julien, this is something you can explain a bit more in terms of how do you get the money from you know, brands or like Danone? Is it on a long term, or is it, you know, every year something? And how do you spend it? How do you need to show it?
And if I can add something, Ren, I've seen a question, so it's related to money too. And this is, how can impact startups or companies with a limited budget make meaningful collabs and have a real reach and impact?
I'll start with that one. It's people. if they don't have money, they have their people, and there is a lot they can do. I mean, we're working with I mean, we're not only looking for funding, we're looking for talent, because we need competencies from the business and corporate world. So we are doing a lot of pro bono work with small companies that are emerging, especially in the area of tech digital. You know, how can IA, machine to machine, augmented reality support our operations on the field? And we're working with startup on that, and they're not giving us any money, but they have a very valuable impact. So, and again, it's really and usually those startup you know, have 2-3 years, and for them it's really giving them a purpose, and it's helping them, I would say, to structure their strategies, their vision as a mission company. Now, when in terms of funding, there are different schemes. We obviously prefer to have long-term relationship, which is obviously giving us some visibility. So there are either sponsoring operations, like for a person, we collect a percentage of the sales, but it can be direct funding, like a check that get given directly through, for example, the foundation. And in exchange, what we do, and that's one of the particularities of 1001 Fontaines, is we really monitor and communicate, and we are very transparent on the impact of each donation. For each euro that is given to 1001 Fontaines, there's an impact behind. There is a dashboard, so we provide them with, or I would say, a social impact dashboard every quarters, so that they can see where their impact is going and how it sustains and grows over time.
Thank you, Julien. And also, Rem, do you have another question you picked?
Yes, there was a question about somebody, it's Daniela, who was starting an agency with artists and brand partnerships. And her question is, do you have any tips or recommendations for someone who is starting in this business? Well, yes, of course. I mean, I think you need a lot of motivation and to love art and to have a sense of the tendencies, the new things which are coming up. And I think you need also to have a strong marketing skills just to understand what brands want, what their needs are, how needs will evolve, and also to have on the other side being able to talk with artists and to feel and to see where they want to go. It's not always easy to put these two very different together. For instance, if you put Manish with Remy-Martin, Florence, you have two different types you put together, and that's really challenging. It's very interesting, and that's the beauty of collaborations, I would say. And as Manish also talked about, you know, Manish with him and Swarovski, it's interesting to see what kind of, you know, children came out of it. So every time it's a new curious new baby coming up, so that's nice. So yeah, that's definitely something which triggers you all the time to have this motivation of putting happy marriages together, which are not always happy, but most of the time they are.
I've seen a question related to fear, actually. It's about transparency. The question is kind of asking, like, is that kind of dangerous because people are going to dig into who you really are, what is the DNA of the brand, and maybe we can become vulnerable. So what would be your answer?
You're asking me?
Oh, who has an answer about this? Is it, I mean, do you have to fear that people will try to make sure that what you are defending is really what you are, that you're aligned?
Well, I think if it's something which is on the long term, again, what Florence with Remy-Martin explained, or for Kiehl's or others, you have a very long term of certain involvement, and it's in the DNA of your brand, you have little to risk. If it's something which is just short term, everything which is short term is, I think it's nowadays seen as risky for sure. It's that would be my reply.
But I think sincerity is more important than transparency, because people, they don't know everything, but they are sure that when you do something is sincere. And one question is, how do we know that the brand is really sincere? I think we have a majority of people that think that the brand is sincere when you see that it takes a risk, and the risk is to have a part of people that don't appreciate, don't like what you are doing, because sometimes, and especially when you are engaged in the social concern like the racism or other things with Nike and Copernic, you know that one part of the American people we like it and another part don't like it. So it's why it is risky. So it looks like sincere, and people, and I'm sure it's sincere because you have a risk for your business.
And don't you think it's also trained in the world we live in? I mean, we are more and more aware that we can change, evolve, and it's not because you've done mistake in your past or you experienced things that maybe were not perfect, that you are not a good person and you are not trying to change. So when you were talking about the internal change of companies, isn't it good also to take the risk that, oh, okay, you are not all white, but doesn't mean that we are not trying to change and do something different?
Yes, sure. But I don't know if we have more examples of this topic, but I think, yes, the sincerity is the risk, but the risk disconnected of your, I mean, of your business. So it's why.
Okay.
I think the tone is very important. If you remain humble, if you go for facts, if you praise, I'm not going to have the English word, but the fact that you always improve, that it's only about improvement, I think you can't be wrong. That would be my answer.
There is a question, which is why collaboration are so successful in the fashion industry. So maybe Manish, you do have an answer around this?
Well, first I would like to agree with what Geraldine said earlier. I think taking a risk is very important in any collaboration, because that's when you create something new. Without risk, it's become something that people have been there, done that, seen it. So that, as a fashion designer, for example, a fashion designer doing a collaboration with Nespresso capsule, that's a very strange, I would imagine it's a very strange combination. But then we managed to create this emotion, like I mentioned before, of Life is Beautiful in 400 stores worldwide, where people will come, not just children, adults, they will just come and start taking pictures at the window. The joy that it came out, because it could have only come out with a mindset of a fashion designer with embroideries and embellishments with a coffee company. So there was a big risk that both we took on both sides, and the result was extremely positive.
And so, in your opinion, why in the fashion industry is it so successful?
Well, fashion comes with very individual characters. Artists, I would say fashion designers are artists in a way, and each one has their own style, especially if you look at Paris Fashion Week. If you look at the calendar, every show, every hour, there's a different show, and each one has a very individual style. I could say, talk about me as the colorful, I could proudly say I'm probably the most colorful designer in France. Then there is somebody like Rick Owens, who comes with a totally opposite identity, or be it new brands like Vetements. There's so much new direction with each brand. That's why it becomes more exciting for let's say any big mass market brand to collaborate with designers. It comes out more original, more real, and somehow it gives new excitement to the customers.
Thank you, Manish.
Yes, sorry, I see maybe an interesting question about what about performance measure and KPIs? Does it make sense in the brand collaborations?
Maybe that's a good question for Florence.
Well, it depends on the collaboration. Obviously, when you become a patron of a Versailles Castle, You don't go for, especially when you are a spirits brand. We were not expecting a media buzz because we were very restricted with the loi et vin. So from the beginning, we knew what was important was action, was to support Versailles and to talk about our values and our objectives, but not about getting media cover. So, well, on the case of the limited edition with Matmo, it was different. Obviously, we did have KPIs that were in terms of media coverage, user-generated content, and in the end, sales. It really depends.
Oh. Some connection trouble. Yeah. Any other question?
Yes, maybe. Ren, because I saw one.
No, go ahead, Geraldine.
Okay. Is there a collaboration they regret? So without naming it, what did they learn from it? Did they regret some collaborations?
Do you regret anything? So Manish, Julien, and Florence. This is the moment you can talk about your sins.
No, but you know that you learn a lot. You learn a lot.
Exactly.
So
mistake is an opportunity to learn and do better.
Exactly.
So it's not about regretting, it's about learning something from a failure.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So who is the daring one?
Manish, go ahead.
Okay, then let me do that. No, it's collaborations. So far in my experience, it's never been a bad collaboration. Yes, there have been times after you finish the collaboration, you look back at it, you think you could have done it better, or you could have done it in a different manner, or you could have done it taken a different route. That is only kind of regrets I've had with my collaborations. Because once you go into collaboration, for me, it's very important. First, I like the brand and the people around the brand. Only then I make the decision. So it's kind of clear before I jump into the bandwagon of collaborating. I make a conscious decision. I take my time. We decide, does it work with me? Does it work for them? After that, you do have regrets. Oh, I wish I could have done that, or I wish I could have done it this way. But never, ever has it been a failure so far.
It's like married, right?
I told you. And in India, we have arranged marriages. It's very common. So it's like an arranged marriage collaborations.
So what did you learn? Let's say about one collaboration which wasn't good. What did you learn? That maybe it was because you were not doing it for the right reasons, or what was the teaching?
Are you asking me again?
Yes.
You want me to tell things controversial, right? But I'm not going to give you that.
No. I just want to better understand that. Okay, if it didn't work, what did you learn? Because sometimes, we make mistake, and it's probably more or less every time the same type of mistake, because sometimes we need to go there. We think we need to go there for the wrong reasons. So I just want you to tell us what could be the wrong reason for you.
Well, the main wrong reason if a collaboration going wrong is the match of the two brands. I think that's the seed that you sow when you do a collaboration. So it's very important to be very careful what you're getting into in terms of the brand values. A brand may be amazing, but it may not match with the values that you have, even though it doesn't have to be similar. Like Ren mentioned before, a collaboration between me and Remy-Martin can be very exciting because it's quite the contrary in terms of identities. But yes, if you don't sow the seed right, if you're not in the, it's not going to end up well. And like I said before, I have not had such an experience with people like Ren finding me collaborations. She's managed to find right partners for me so far.
If I try to find a pattern of the unsuccessful collaborations, either collaborations that we didn't manage to concretize or collaboration we did and that really had no impact. I'd say that there was no, and coming back to my concept of corporate culture and embeddedness, usually there wasn't the proper alignment within the organization or the brand. So it may have been like the CEO who liked the project and said, okay, let's do it. And it was pushing hard, but the team didn't really respond to it because there are other ideas. On the other hand, you know, employees from the company that was super supportive, but they had no support from their management. So usually what makes a successful collaboration and has impact is really to have all the different layers of the organization aligned, and not only the communication department or the HR department or the CEO. And that's what for me, you know, when I think about the frustrating experiences, there's always been this issue at some point.
Thank you, Julien. Florence?
Yeah, no, I don't have regrets. Sorry. No, you can be disappointed, as Manish said. But
if there is something that you recognize as something which, like, oh, okay, we are going in the wrong direction if we are facing this kind of trouble or problem. You know, Julien was talking about the people and the organization from the inside. Yeah. Maybe there is something you identified. Yeah.
No, well, thanks God I identified before we went for the partnership. So really, the advice is that you should meet the persons. You should take the time to make sure that the values are aligned, that the objectives are aligned. Yeah, definitely. That's the important moment to make sure the match will be good. But you can't always be 100%. Yeah.
Maybe also on the agency side. I mean, you know, I'm often at the beginning of partnerships where we propose different artists, or and you can feel it from the beginning. Sometimes it's you know, or either on the artist side or the personality, there's not really there's not that much motivation. Or sometimes on the brand side, you feel that they're not really that happy about it. Or even sometimes when it goes further on the contract side, they have difficulties with the negotiation, and that all these are moments where you really can stop, and they're good signs where you can say, well, maybe we should go for another partner. Or even already from the beginning, when you ask, you know, an artist to do a partnership, and you get, you know, after 1 week or 2 weeks, you still don't have any reply. Well, you know, there's no motivation, and there's no need to go to search further or to go via another road to tie in with that good cause or with that artist. So it's pretty much about an alignment and a quick energy, which is you know, goes quickly together. Then it's pretty much the same with marriage, I think.
Thank you. If there is any other question you'd like to cover, Geraldine or Rem?
Maybe one and the last, because I realized that already it's 7:12. So,
but it's still fascinating.
Yeah, yes. I don't know, Ren, if you so because there are a lot of questions and always very interesting. So you know that.
And you're gonna spend the rest of the night writing down and answering all those questions.
Yes, but it's about maybe. One is
there's one for Julien.
Yeah.
How does his company, so Meet 1001 Fountains, manages to the issue of perceived conflict of interest when selecting businesses and companies as partners? So yeah, it's about the selecting of you as an NGO. You know, do you sometimes say no to certain partners, certain brands, and why? What would be the reason?
Well, yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we have an ethical charter, basically, that states what are the conditions for us to work with certain organizations, and there are obviously some sectors with who we are not going to work. So it's basically what are the sectors these organizations are working on. Have then been, you know, I would say, alleged cases of corruption, bribery at a large scale level of the company. So those are the kind of things we do. We basically perform a due diligence for every partnerships, classical due diligence to ensure that it fits with our ethical charter and social business principles. Yes.
So thank you all for this. So we're gonna, go through what you do. So thank you, Manish, Arora, for being with us. Thank you
so much.
Puech, for being with us too. Thank you, Julien Ancele, for being with us. Thank you, Géraldine, Michel, and Ren Willing, because you're the reason why we were together for this book, The Art of Successful Brand Collaboration. Congratulations. This is always such a great thing to make a book. It does exist. It's real, like not only ideas in the air. And just before we'll leave, we're going to see a little presentation of those fantastic panelists. It was great for me to be with you tonight. I learned a lot, so I'm very thankful. Have a beautiful evening and successful collaboration in every part of your life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.